Hi guys, check your ego at the door because we're going to talk about that coming up. But first, please click on that top secret icon in the lower right hand corner of your screen or hit subscribe down below. Make sure you also leave a comment on this video and let me know, give me some feedback of what you think. Let's talk about ego. Ego is often considered to be pride, and that's not necessarily the case. You can be proud, but you also have feelings and emotions, and that really your ego comes from that. Your ego comes from your vision of yourself, how you view yourself, what you think of yourself, and as opposed to how others think of you or are reacting to you. So your ego gets wounded because of the emotional beliefs that you have about yourself. Often a wounded ego is a result of a lack of self-confidence. It's also a road to being angry and being angry at people and being reactionary at people. None of us like to be offended, none of us like our egos to be hurt. The key is to be able to put aside your ego and listen to what people say. I have a big problem with that. I do have issues with not listening to what other people are saying to me. Maybe it's because of the way they present it that offends me or offends my ego, and they could be more tactful indeed. But when it comes right down to it, the key is to listen to what they're saying and to be thankful for them responding to you that way and letting you know. And you should be looking at ways to fix that issue that they're bringing up if it's possible. So often our ego is offended and we become angry and we lash out or we get defensive. These are all issues that happen in our head and in our heart because we do not have a strong sense of self, not only, but we can't take criticism because our ego tells us that we deserve better treatment than what we were receiving, which isn't always the case. But also, our ego acts as a conscience in which we realize that what the person is saying is true, but we don't want to face up to it. So that's why we got to put our ego in check. Having some amount of ego is a good thing, because if we didn't have any ego whatsoever, then we would let others ride all over us, not only, but we would not seek to do better ourselves. When our ego is offended, we can take note of that and say, I can do better. And you strive to do better because you are working with your ego to improve yourself. The other side of the coin, though, is to have too much ego where we're offended at everybody else. It's everybody else's fault, for example, that something went wrong, and we do not want to take extreme ownership of what has happened or the mistakes that we make, but we blame shift and we push those mistakes on other people. Often when we feel jealous of someone, for example, if someone makes more money than us or has a promotion or that type of thing, we become jealous and we feel inadequate. And that stems from our ego, our sense of entitlement. We think of ourselves more highly than we ought to think. This person may have worked very hard to gain what he has, and we think we may work hard also, but we haven't done the same things that he's done in order to get where he is. And everyone's different, obviously. So those are all factors in which there's going to be differences, and our ego could get in the way and make us jealous of someone else. Our ego is the problem with regard to tearing others down. We feel inadequate about ourselves, so we have to tear others down to bring them down to our level. We're always pulling on them. It's like the crabs in a bucket. You have crabs in a bucket and one of them tries to climb up and escape. Well, other crabs will pull him down to keep him there and with the group. And that's always a problem. It's important to not be ego focused, but to be mission focused. Whatever your mission is, if you're in the military, obviously you have specific missions and goals, but other occupations also have missions, and your life is a mission in and of itself. Whether it be how to serve God, or what occupation to pursue, or even where to go to school or what to study. And those are all missions. We all have missions. Another word for a mission is a responsibility and a duty. And we all have those. And we obviously should strive to do the best that we can in those roles, but also that we should accomplish that mission without feeling jealous or angry or envious of others. And also, for that matter, not letting our ego get in the way, so that when we hear criticism, that we are not deterred not only from completing our mission and being focused on our mission, but also that we can learn from that criticism to perhaps do our mission better. Often when our ego is offended, we fail to be polite to others, and that obviously is a big problem. It is not conducive to any kind of healthy relationship being impolite. There's no reason not to be polite to people, even if they are impolite to you. Make a pledge now to try to do that in our lives, regardless of what the situation is. But most importantly, we should put aside our ego to play the long game. What is our overall strategy? Whether it be an eternal long game where we put aside the things that we want to do right now and the luxuries that our present life could afford if we compromised, and always look to that long goal, that treasures in heaven, as it were. Or whether it be in our actual life, perhaps our immediate desire is to gorge ourselves on something fattening, as opposed to looking at the long-term goal, which is to stay fit and in shape and to stay shapely. So these are all things that we should look at, and the ego plays a part in it, because the ego says, I want this, I want it now. But the ego often is the issue because we feel like we deserve it. And the reality of life is we don't deserve anything that we haven't earned. And when you're talking about the most important thing, you can't earn that anyway. So is your ego in check? Does your ego get offended? What are you going to do about it? Can you stop? Can you listen? Can you be humble? Which is obviously the opposite of pride. Humility is the opposite of pride, but it also factors in the ego in our emotional state. So are you willing to put aside your ego? Do you think you can put aside your ego for the greater good? Are you mission focused? Or are you ego-centric, where the world revolves around you? Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. Tell me what you struggle with.